I'm ADRIAN, HAREWOOD, and you're watching Our Ottawa on CBC. Our next story is about a couple who moved from the U.S. to Canada in the 1960s, settling in Maxville, Ontario, where they surrounded their home with love, nurturing a family of 21 children. Yes, I did say 21 children. Retired Minister Fred CAPPUCCINO and his wife Bonnie had 2 kids of their own and adopted 19 children from a dozen different cultural backgrounds. Both Fred and Bonnie are also members of the Order of Canada for their humanitarian work with the organization Child Haven International, a charity that assists children and women in developing countries who are in need of support. To learn more about their remarkable story, Fred has written the book Bonnie and Her 21 Children, and I'm happy to have both of them with me here in studio. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Bonnie, you've always loved children.
Right.
What was it about your upbringing that kind of made you want to nurture children as a young person?
Well, my mother had been a school teacher, and she had a geography book that she had used in school, and I used to pore over that and see pictures of children and people in different countries. And I think that was probably one of the reasons that I was interested in children and overseas.
Now, the two of you, though, had decided that you only wanted to have 2 kids of your own, and that seemed to be a political, kind of philosophical kind of choice on your part, Fred.
Part of it was that in Japan, I was there for 3 years before I met Bonnie, and one of the feelings I had, this was right after the Second World War, was of population pressure. Japan is mostly mountains, and wherever there's any level land, that's where the people are, and there were so many. And I got to thinking about the world's population and thinking, well, there are so many children that don't have a home, let's limit ours and try to adopt 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. 1 or 2 became 19 more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Transracial adoption at that time in the 1950s would have been a radical idea. It was a radical idea. It was a radical practice.
Very unusual.
Right. Mm-hmm. How did people in your community, how did people in your family respond when you told them and when you showed them that you were going to be adopting, kids from many different parts of the world, different races?
Well, my mother thought it was great, and Fred's family didn't seem to have any problem. My father had been born in the South, so he had reservations until he met our daughter, who was Black Japanese, who was 5 years old and just a very tiny little thing. And he heard that the people in our church were giving us trouble, and he immediately jumped on the bandwagon that how dare they do this. So he became solidly in favor, and I think all of our relatives, as we added children from different places, adopted their country and the children, and we're just very proud to be part of the family.
Why did you hang in there, and why did you add almost a child a year, for many, many years? What was it about maybe your faith that told you that this was something that you were supposed to do?
I think we both feel that a child is a child, and there is nothing at all in this world more beautiful or more precious or more valuable than a child, and any child.
You left the United States in 1967. You went to Pointe Claire.
That's right.
Pointe Claire, Quebec, in Canada's centenary year. You eventually moved to Maxville. Maxville, Ontario, just outside of Ottawa. And I'm still curious because in this day and age, a lot of young people are often complaining about how difficult it is. We're often talking about how difficult it is to raise children, how expensive it is in this environment. You raised 21 children. And I'm wondering, how do you go about feeding 21 children? How do you go about clothing them? How do you go about taking care of their emotional needs? Can you talk about that experience, Fred?
That's a very good question.
When we moved out there was no Unitarian congregation, so I had to get a different job. I got a job in a hospital. The nurses knew about our family. They would bring piles and piles of clothes in black garbage bags. So I'd go home with a car full of clothes, maybe once a week, and our kids had wonderful clothes. The other thing that happened was cows. I was very surprised to find that a cow will pay for herself in 50 days if you figure the price of the milk and you're buying the milk. And so that was a huge economic advantage. And it was wonderful to have a dozen kids there and all the milk they could drink, and butter and cheese and yogurt, and so that was a big help.
Did you ever worry, though, as parents, as to whether you could actually, and I return to the emotional support. That's a lot of kids, and kids are individuals.
Yeah.
Did you ever worry about supporting them as individuals and addressing some of the concerns that they might have? Was that a worry for you, Bonnie?
Well, I think we just took one day at a time and didn't especially worry about it. Different ones had issues from time to time, and we look at each other and say, well, it's a stage that he or she is going through, and he'll get over it. And they did. They all turned out wonderfully.
I think also there's emotional support among the children themselves, and there is like doing their homework. One would help the other.
And what made you want to write this memoir after all these years?
Well, there's only one Bonnie Cappuccino, and I thought that her story ought to be told, mainly for our kids. Of course, they know a lot of it, but there's some of it that they don't know.
What was the experience like writing it for you?
Well, it was over many, many years. Like when things would happen, I would write it down. So I had a lot of material, and a lot was cut out. The advice I got from a close friend when I sent him the manuscript was, Fred, this is not about you. So I had to take out about running for political office and all the interesting things I did because it was about her and the kids. So turned out to be a much better book.
So I would imagine then the next book that you're writing, the next memoir, will be about you, I hope.
We'll have to see.
To be continued.
To be continued.
Can you tell us the story behind Child Haven International? Because this was an organization that continues to this day. It's been going on for decades now.
Yeah.
What's the story of Child Haven?
We had an organization before that which was bringing adoptive children to Canada, brought many hundreds of children to Canada. And after Bonnie kind of ran out of steam as far as adopting children in our family, we thought, well, we know about India and we're interested in Mahatma Gandhi. Let's see if we can take care of some kids over there. And so we wrote to our friends, and it started very small, and now there are 9 homes in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Tibet. And we're quite proud of the fact that our budget is about $1.5 million a year. So if you divide that by 1,300 children, we feel the money stretches a long way. We keep them through high school, and then Bonnie talks with the manager and the child and works out what kind of a vocational training should they have.
So Bonnie, your organization, Child Haven, is having a fundraising dinner on April 15th. Can you tell us a bit more about what will be happening?
Well, it will be at Tudor Hall, and tickets are available by calling Child Haven, and we'll have some live music and some slides of what's going on overseas, and we'll have dignitaries there, but just ordinary people and families, and we're really looking forward to it.
I know that I can speak for many people in the community who have been inspired by your example, continue to be, and thank you for your presence in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
It's been a wonderful experience.
Likewise,
Thank you.
Thank you.